Hello, everybody. I'm Doug Goldstein. Title of my talk is Will Robots Automate Your Job Away? Streamlining Xen Project Contributions Through CI. So I like fun titles. So first thing, probably not. The whole point is to kind of make software do our jobs for us, right? Or as much of the boring part of our jobs. And so that's really what I'm talking about. So quick about me, I'm a site reliability engineer at Rackspace. I think almost every other conference I have a new title, new job. So, but it's all the same at the end of the day, keeping boxes happy. I'm also a Xen Project contributor, and I maintain the GitLab and GitHub integration with Way. So what I kind of want to talk about is what's our current workflow, and Lars touched on this in his talk. Kind of the issues that I hear and see with that, and just pitch out how some folks use, some other projects use some bots, and expand on where we can go. So our current workflow is derived from Git Flow, right? And so this is the post that introduced Git Flow there. But basically, committers commit to staging, OSS test build staging, and once everything looks good, it commits to master. We establish freezes to let OSS test catch up, because OSS test, takes a little while. And when we throw 100 patches into the queue, there's bound to be a problem, a failure, and whatnot. So we need to wait and just commit patches that are good to kind of clear things up. And then we cut a release branch from there, and then that frees up the freeze. And we've talked about this workflow a whole lot. And I do remember last year in Nanjing, we talked about the freeze windows quite a bit. And the freeze windows are long, they're dragging out the release process. Do we need to change how often we release? And do we need to adjust the freeze windows? There was a lot of concern there, because folks want to develop. They want to develop features. They want to write code. They don't want to be bogged down in the politics of it. So that's a big one. And then something that folks are calling merge skew or semantic conflicts. And I kind of wrote this little story here, but ultimately, the concept is somebody does a patch that refactors or renames a function. And I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Somebody refactors that, they build it, test it locally, they submit it to the mailing list, they've got an ACK, and somebody else has a patch series that depended on the old name of that function. They have gotten ACKs on it, and they merge it, and it commits, and all of a sudden we kick off an OSS test flight, and a simple rename has broken stuff. And so that's kind of called, like I said, merge skew or semantic conflicts. You'll see folks talk about that. Another big issue that we see sometimes in the community is committers have different standards by which a commit is mergeable. Sometimes folks, there'll be ACKs from folks, but somebody is a committer that comes along and says, hey, I understand there's an ACK here, but the person that reviewed this missed this, and they'll push back, rightfully so, to get something cleaned up. And another committer might say, well, it's got an ACK, therefore, I can kind of commit it. And so standardizing that process, and some of that goes along with code style and whatnot. Or committers have the same standards but different environments. One committer might do all their tests with GCC 4. One committer is using the latest GCC. And I mean, it's a reality that folks have different environments that they have to support, so they do their tests in the environments that their job pays them to support. So, but again, we need to kind of improve on this by kind of doing standards. And a big one that I see, and this is like a um, I don't know the best way to describe it, but we have committers that are very technical people that have been involved in the project for years, and they're the folks, and they're sitting there doing highly mechanical work of merging these patches in, and frankly, it's a waste of time when they could be doing technical work, and it's something that I say at my day job all the time. Of humans need to be doing the technical work, bots need to be doing the mechanical work. Pay people for value, not to sit there and press a button. With kind of those ideas thrown out there, hopefully nobody disagrees too much with those. I kind of have looked at some projects, and I kind of wanted to talk about how some other projects have tackled that. So Rust is one of my current favorite projects. And so Rust, they've gone ahead and written a bot that they call Boars. And I'm going to follow along on a pull request a little bit. And so this guy, Zoxy or something, he happens to be a maintainer for the compiler Rust C, along with the other folks there. And so he's going to do something dirty in this PR, but it seemed like a good PR to show as an example. So he created a PR which, mailing list wise, just a patch series, right? And he's basically saying a revival of a different one. So this is in effect a V2, right? And so he's CCing Alex, and he's asking, R question mark happens to be a syntax for Boars that says, I'm asking for Michael's review. Well, Alex came along, and Alex said R equals me. That's effectively Boars' syntax for act by. So Alex is giving it his act by, and they have different GitHub usernames that do things. But they ran along and they created a bunch of Travis test flights. And so they try to build the compiler and build that patch series through various environments. And so one of the environments failed. And obviously the person, this maintainer, probably doesn't use that as his local environment. And so, that's a perfect example that this is just not that the CI kind of helps shake that out. And so it failed. It gave a log, and Michael ended up passing it off and passing it over to Alex. And you'll see the bot, they use, again, GitHub, so they have kind of assignments. So it assigns it over to Alex, and the bot is kind of moving things along and hopefully keeping folks focused on doing technical stuff rather than other stuff. Since Alex had given it his act by, and now Michael has passed that over, the bot Boars says that this commit has been approved by him, and it then notices a merge conflict, which again, this would be something that a human would do. But since it noticed a merge conflict, it actually kicks it back over to the author, which it has emailed the author and bothered the author to say, hey, you have a merge conflict, you resolve it, not the committers, because currently kind of the Xen workflow is a lot of times the committers are resolving conflicts for folks. So he happens to do a force push, so V3, let's say, and cleans that up. And this is where I was kind of talking. He did the dirty thing where he's saying, hey, the bot, Alex has already reviewed this series, rather than getting a re-review because there are changes. And since he is a committer, they have their bot allowing that. And so the bot says, it's been approved, and it takes it, and now it's run with it. And I didn't include the pages and pages of comments that the bot makes. But effectively, the bot sat there, and it built, and it handled the rebasing, and it ultimately carried that PR into their master branch all the way. And there was no more human involvement from that point. And it ran a bunch of test flights, and because of the type of change it was into the compiler, they have a bunch of standard libraries and third-party libraries, and the bot actually fired off a large amount of tests, and it took well over a day, but there was no human involvement, and the bot was pinging the necessary people to resolve some issues. The Boars, the bot merges to master. They have the concept of priority values, which I know that folks were concerned with us using automated flows. We need to have the ability to merge in security requests. So I mean, that'd be something that we'd want to have, is the ability to do priorities, and that's something that we don't currently put on our patch series. So that'd be something that we'd have to somehow address for a bot to be able to pick up. Like if Andrew, for example, posts a series that's security related, he doesn't have a current, there's no tag that we're saying in the comments of like priority security or priority 100, like please pick this up first and run with this. So they have the ability to mark features as, for example, a scheduled feature that they wanted to have this feature in this release. So the bot is going to prioritize their CI resources to be testing those first. And so that'd be something that we would want to have in our workflow, but we currently don't have a good way of marking patches in a standardized fashion. So that's something that we would need to change. GitHub doesn't have this, so natively baked in, and so bots consume this. And if you have a GitHub project, Boars is actually a available project for any open source GitHub project, and you can use Boars to test all your stuff and whatnot. So another project out there that has this, GitLab. Unfortunately, this is a newer feature from GitLab, and it's a paid feature at a pay level that I don't have, so I don't have any screenshots of it currently. So I'm gonna have to just do some hand waving. But effectively, GitLab is the same way with a GUI web approach, and they're using PRs or merge requests. But if there's 3 outstanding merge requests into master, they do this feature that they call merge trains. And based on priority values and based on other comments, they'll order those PRs for the CI resources. And so in this case, I'm just going to order them 1, 2, 3. So the CI loop is going to go ahead and build PR1 against master, and it's basically going to queue them up in this fashion and get those in. So let's say PR1 succeeds, it merges it into master automatically for you once everything's happy. It's going to rebase PR2 on top of what the new master is, and that's to avoid that merge skew. Let's say it fails for some unknown reason. It's going to drop it out of the merge train and harass the author via email to fix up their thing, and then it's just going to move on to the very next one that's been approved. And so we use this at Rackspace for all of our stuff, but we're not actually using their pretty GUI. We're using it before they actually release this as a feature. So I think there's some good concepts that a lot of these projects have, and a lot of projects do, that we can use to improve ourselves and to hopefully, again, give committers and maintainers back cycles to do what they do best, which is develop code and read code and troubleshoot code, rather than sitting there and having 10 terminals open, compiling 8 different series and working through that. So Lars gave a presentation really recently, and I'm already marking it up. No, so I mean, what we discussed here in the vision is something that a lot of people got together and we discussed at Nanjing, and I think there was a good consensus that we'll get a lot of these loops running alongside the existing process, and that's effectively what the.
I'd like to point out the sort of very old version of the slides, because I told Lars to take the knack to buy out.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, I have I cribbed an older copy of Lars's slide.
Is this a semantic merge conflict?
Yeah, exactly. It's a semantic merge conflict. The vision is basically we're going to be running everything alongside to assist folks and whatnot. But I would like to see us get to a point in the vision that we have developed it and we have workflows such that people are comfortable with the bots doing the actual merge into even staging and everything for us and freeing up humans to do useful cycles. So I'm basically saying like get rid of the committer. There is no committer, so to speak, anymore. It's a bot all the way. And so we've already got to that point that master is committed by a bot, but even getting to the point of staging and having ways and methods around that. So there's some hard steps here, and the mailing list is certainly one of them because the emails are not standardized, right? And so getting the patches in the first place, we have 3 different ways to get the patches, and every single way has its own gotcha. So I believe it's pronounced Pachu. They have a real good way to get an inbox for a series. Super easy if you have the message ID. Give me an API to get the message IDs, right? So that's an issue there. Lore.kernel.org is a new way that the kernel is archiving mailing lists. They call it public inbox. The problem is that they HTML escape everything, and I cannot get the patches back in, like even unescaping them, they have white space differences, which is, yeah. So I've beaten that API to death, and I'm kind of done with it. But I think patchwork is probably going to be our best path forward. Patchwork.kernel.org has all of our patches on it, and I'm trying to find the right folks to give us appropriate access and whatnot. And so if anybody knows the folks involved that are hosting that, yep.
Question, so is this with upstream or with the sysadmin side? Because the sysadmin side, I managed to get connections, because it was broken until a few months ago.
Yeah, so they actually, this is just upstream, or I guess the sysadmin folks. But I had been pinging different people about some aspects of how the Xen project was displayed there, about some brokenness, and somebody merged something on their hosted instance somewhere between yesterday and this morning when I checked. So the patches are actually applying from a script that I had that wasn't working recently to this morning. It was working, but we still need some better access and some better changes. The other hard part, and Lars has experienced this in the dashboard, is how do we track a new version of a series? A lot of the tools and a lot of these tools will understand a V2 of a series when the number of patches hasn't changed and the subject hasn't changed. But sometimes during a review, it comes out that, oh, please drop this patch out of that, or please add something into this series, and the number of patches changes, and all these tools are very much confused by that. Because the goal would be we're basically going to take these series and build a Git branch and run that branch through CI loop. And if there's a V2, we're going to want to update that branch as the new code. And so some things get kind of confusing. The other hard part I have right now is identification of appropriate patches. The Xen mailing list has quite a few repos that get emailed. The Linux tree, Grub, you name it. There's a whole lot. And so the current thing that I've been doing is if the first patch applies cleanly, then it's probably for the Xen mailing list. Except that's not true. I mean, there's something on the mailing list right now that the first patch is a markdown file that's being added into the docs directory and it's a series for the Linux tree. So the first patch applied cleanly, and so my script assumed, hey, this must be for the Xen tree, since the first patch applied cleanly, but the second patch went off the rails, and so it's wanting to let the author know. And nothing is reaching out currently. This is just in a sandbox. So yeah. Sorry.
I wanted to ask: are people not following the rules of setting to and CCs correctly for the patches? I mean, the QEMU patch would go to QEMU devel. A Xen patch would go to Xen devel. The Linux patch would go to RTML. All of these patches may be CC'd to Xen devel.
Yes.
By the tool list, you should know what it applies to.
Nobody followed the rule.
Yeah. Right.
I agree if I don't follow that rule either.
Right, and so basically this patch, the Linux mailing list is in a CC, and so is Xen devel. So they're both in CCs, so I'll probably try to work out something that if there's another mailing list in the CC list, then it's probably not for Xen.
But if you were making a change to Xen, which also modified the interface to Linux, would you also CC to Linux?
Not typically, no.
Not typically, okay.
So,
But you didn't know.
yeah, I mean,
So you must put Xen devel in the CC line if and only if, and otherwise, otherwise your thing doesn't end up, everybody will ignore it, including
Right.
the bot.
Yeah, I mean, I was generally wanting to bring up in some with the full audience a question towards email behavior of people, and this being a problem here gives even more reason to tell people that they should properly follow what means to and what means CC.
Yeah.
Because it is a nightmare to me that people cannot
Kelly, do you want to get the
separate
mic?
what is to and what is CC, because you never know, are you meant to deal with the mail, or is it just that they screwed up?
yeah, I agree, and that's ultimately the whole problem is that we either don't have a standard for some things, or we do have a standard for some things, and folks aren't following it necessarily. I guess Jan's done. I'll hang on to it though. Or Andrew, if you pass it up.
Also, for some bits that we do have a standard for, our standard is different to some of the other people we interact with, which makes all of this work. So, or worse, sorry. So I think Linux wants all the mailing lists in CC and not 2.
We should defer that to
Yeah.
this because quite possible, but then it's also
Let's
like-
do
Yeah, sure. So,
Go ahead.
okay, I'm almost there. So, basically, another concern is the amount of emails on the list if we start having a bot start replying. And so I would want to come up with some either standard headers and whatnot that the bot could include that people could filter appropriately. And then I guess I already talked about the last bullet point. So we've kind of been doing a lot of work on this in various aspects and in various steps. So I kind of wanted to give it just an umbrella name. And so I've kind of re-architected my stuff to call it Ganis. And so I'll start pushing some of these scripts and whatnot, and we can kind of beat them up. And I followed Boars, which was the bot, and I followed where it came from. But my goal is to start running this alongside, just like Lars's vision talk, is to start running this alongside and to start turning on emails and whatnot, and to have things going. And then last thing is we have a design session that's scheduled for this. If you're interested in talking about this or helping solve some problems, because I certainly don't have all the answers, please express your interest in the design session.
I guess we should try and do that today rather than later. Feels
Sure.
sensible.
So there was actually, have you seen, there's a post by a guy named Konstantin about basically trying to replace the Linux kernel mailing list with something more Git-like. He called it decent. There was just kind of a, like, I just saw it on LWN like this morning and read through it and was like, this would be really awesome if this
It's on
actually worked.
LWN, you said?
So there was a, if you go to LWN, it has a, it just says, it points to his blog post.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I'll do it.
Where he talks about basically, because one of the things he talks about is that as a, doing all the work on GitLab means that it has some downsides. I won't go into it, but people talk about that. But mailing list also has its own downsides, and the idea was that it would basically be a Git-like thing that would store all the discussion about a patch as it developed. And that should, I mean, if it could be used properly, right?
Sure.
If you could sort of use, I mean, if you submitted pull requests via this thing and the discussion all happened via this thing, and the new versions, then you could say, well, when you submit a new version, your thing should already know what the old version was, and you can kind of, all that stuff will be stored somewhere, kind of alongside the Git stuff.
I wonder if that's related to lore.kernel.org, because it's the public inbox project.
Konstantin is the same guy. So Konstantin is the guy that maintains the kernel deployment infrastructure.
Okay.
Right.
It might be very well related.
Yeah, so it sounds like Konstantin is like, yeah, lore stinks. So I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's not doing what I would like it to do.
Because basically what it is a Git repo of everything that's on the mailing list and all discussions. But it's got its.
So he just posted it kind of recently and said he doesn't even have he said, imagine a workflow that looked like this, and he doesn't even have a thing yet, and so
Yeah,
people are just talking about it. So maybe in a year or two or something we'll have something like that. But
Yeah, I'm game.
okay.
Any other questions or comments or?
Thank you.